If you believe the Monday Night War propaganda, Vince McMahon is the man who innovated much of what became success in the pro wrestling industry. However, the truth is that the WCW's Eric Bischoff, along with some of his predecessors, were the real pioneers in what came to work massively in the WWE. Vince would end up killing off WCW and pretty much using WCW concepts. Now that's a kick in the teeth. But that was years ago. Nope. Have a look at present day. Ryback is the all-new Bill Goldberg. He's a spitting image puppet of Goldberg. I'm Cal from What Culture, and here is 10 gimmicks stolen from WCW. Number 10. Nitro-inspired Raw. Despite Raw debuting 2 whole years before Nitro, it was WCW's Monday night flagship which really influenced the stature of professional wrestling. So, how are they similar, Cal? Well, Nitro ran for a 2-hour format since May of 1996. Raw copied that in February 1997 after Mr. McMahon heard loud and clear that Nitro's unopposed hour was winning the war. Not only was there the extra hour, but also the live format, giving the idea of an anything can happen thing. Despite Raw not going live until 1999 with Vince's ideology of nothing can go wrong if it's live. Well, it can go wrong. Remember your hamstrings problem, Vinny. Nitro also led the way in a 3-hour format that Raw would eventually copy a decade later. Number 9. Mr. McMahon is a rip-off of Eric Bischoff. The Mr. McMahon gimmick is one of the greatest of all time, and it was his heel act that made Stone Cold Steve Austin one of the biggest stars in history. Did McMahon come up with the character? No, he just ripped it off from Eric Bischoff. As WCW president, he became the egomaniac opposing the notorious NWO, only to join the group later in 1996. WCW would eventually suspend him due to his abuse of power, only of course to return wreaking havoc and even wrestling at Starrcade 97. Essentially, Bischoff was doing the heel GM a good year before McMahon. Number 8. DX is a rip-off of the NWO. The NWO invented the cool heel faction which D-Generation X later copied using great effect. The history books portray DX as the great innovators, with the NWO legacy being focused upon its failures. The actual truth is NWO stole it from New Japan. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash coming as outsiders in 1996, they then formed the NWO with Hulk Hogan, the intention to take over. When DX came about, the NWO had already been around for a year, and DX's merchant was even black and white, just like the NWO's. Let's get ready to borrow from the NWO! Number 7. War Games inspired the Elimination Chamber. The War Games match was originally created by the great Dusty Rhodes in the late 80s, becoming a success story in the NWA's Great American Bash. WCW absorbed the match as a part of their expansion, featuring heavily in the 90s as one of their key selling points. Triple H has always been a fan of the gimmick, and in the early 2000s got Vince McMahon's batshit crazy ear on about it and ripping it off, thus creating the Elimination Chamber. Although several good matches, there's nothing quite as good as the early WCW War Game bouts. Number 6. Starrcade inspired WrestleMania. Apparently, WrestleMania revolutionized the industry in 1985, when in fact NWA Jim Crockett Promotions, that would later become WCW, hosted the first Starrcade in 1983, becoming the first North American supercard not WrestleMania. Not only that, but Starrcade was being broadcast on closed-circuit TV, something Vince didn't bother doing until 2 years later. McMahon decided that he had invented the concept of a pay-per-view megacard, but in actual fact, he was just going off what Starrcade had done. Number 5. The Cruiserweight division. Eric Bischoff gets way little credit for implementing the Cruiserweight division in WCW. It was Bischoff who would bring the high work rate guys like Rey Mysterio and the fantastically brilliant Eddie Guerrero, and thank God he brought in someone like Guerrero. For that, Bischoff, we are all in debt to you forever. Giving WCW some of its greatest matches ever, McMahon tried to rip off the gimmick with his own light heavyweight division in 1997, but it never really caught fire, unlike the Latino heat that was burning away in WCW. Vince outright stole the gimmicks, bringing Rey Mysterio with his masks, instantly becoming a huge star. The fact was, if it wasn't for Bischoff, we may never have seen the likes of Eddie Guerrero becoming WWE Champion. Number 4. Sting inspired The Ultimate Warrior. As the 1980s came to a close, Sting had established himself as the next big thing of professional wrestling. Colourful gear and face paint made him far more appealing than the aging, haggard Hulk Hogan. Vince obviously took note of this and decided to push his own face-painted wrestler to the top of 1990. Although The Ultimate Warrior had the bright colours and face paint of Sting, he clearly didn't have the wrestling ability. While Sting rocketed to the great heights of 1990, Warrior was floundering as WWF champion. Number 3. The Higher Power and the Black Scorpion. Speaking of Sting, in the 1990 championship run, he was haunted by the Black Scorpion, a mystery figure as viewed as Sting's biggest threat. After the build-up of months and months, Sting finally wrestled the Black Scorpion at Starrcade 1990. Upon defeating him, Sting unmasked the heel to find out that it was the one and only Ric Flair. Woo! In 1999, the WWE ripped it off once again with the Higher Power storyline. The Undertaker was the Higher Power against babyface Mr. McMahon. So imagine the confusion when the Higher Power was revealed to be Mr. McMahon. In both instances, fans felt left down. Mystery heels are always fun, but not when it turns out to be the same old wrestler. Number 2. Thunder and SmackDown. The WWE often hype up how they were so popular that they launched a second weekly broadcast of SmackDown in 1999. However, the gimmick of the more wrestling-focused show later in the week was actually once again a WCW innovation. They launched Thunder on Thursday nights from January 1998 onwards, preceding SmackDown by over a year. Number 1. Ric Flair and the world title. One of the most literal examples of WWE stealing a WCW gimmick was when Vince McMahon brought Ric Flair in 1991, even bringing the WCW world title and literally presenting the WCW's main franchise on WWE television. The level of copying was so high the world title had to be removed on legal grounds. A decade later, Vince once again brought back the world championship into WWE, but in 2013 WCW's greatest gimmick prop had died with WWE's inability to sustain 2 equal world championships. Did we miss any out? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.